Hi, welcome to White Glove Geography. We're going to look at development indicators today, and in particular the death rate development indicator. We're going to look at the key aspects, the limitations, and various other things connected with that. So just a quick review. In a previous video we looked at different types of development indicators, which briefly were GNI, birth rate, death rate, infant mortality, life expectancy, people per doctor, education, access to safe water, and HDI, a composite indicator. So today, particularly, we're going to look at death rate. Some of the things we learned in the previous video were it's the number of deaths per 1,000 people of population, for every 1,000 people of the population. So let's say a country has got 1,000 people in it. Let's say there are 5 deaths. If we multiply that up and a country has 100,000 people in it, multiply that by 100, that's where we get to. Multiply that by 100, that's where we get to. So that is equivalent to 500 per 100,000 deaths in the country. So that's the death rate. Now there's some limitations, there's some problems with using this as a development indicator that you need to be aware of. Firstly, we have data collection. In some countries, the data collection of recording births and deaths isn't brilliant, whereas in the UK we have excellent record keeping, and we have a census every 10 years that tells us about the country and the population in the country. Also, death rate is quite difficult to measure in terms of its usefulness because of the low death rate in many countries. Once a country has reached the end of stage 2 or stage 3, in the demographic transition model, which is covered in a different video, many death rates in the countries will be quite low. That's because many of the easily curable diseases in a country will have been cured, and people have then a good death rate. Final thing that we're going to look at is the link to life expectancy. So that's how long people are expected to live. So think about this in a different way. The death rate is not always a good indicator of development because it's linked to the age of the population. Let's say, for example, a youthful population of a poorer country might have a lower death rate than in a wealthier population and in a wealthier country where there's an aging population. Putting that into context, let's say in a country the life expectancy is 55. Now it's quite likely that country may have gone through some difficulties, maybe a war or maybe a famine, and people were at the death rate here where the death rate is low at 55, and it's caused that. So if the death rate there is quite low at the age of 55, because the life expectancy is also low, that helps to explain that. In the UK, the life expectancy is around about 80, depending on people's gender. So the death rate here might actually be quite high because as people get older, there's more and more illnesses that people will suffer from, and the life expectancy is high, meaning the death rate will also be high. So it's not easily comparable between different countries. Again, there are lots of social indicators, and also it's necessary to look at some of the history in the country to explain what the link between life expectancy and also death rate is. So we have death rate as a development indicator. It's measured per 1,000 people in the country. It's for every year, and it's measured for every 1,000 people so that it's comparable between different countries, because of course different countries have different populations. Some of the limitations are it's down to the collection of data. How reliable is that? Low death rate is common in many countries once a country goes past stage 2 or 3 of the demographic transition model, and also there's a link to life expectancy. So younger people are going to have a lower death rate if they have a lower life expectancy. So thank you very much, and that was development indicators, death rate for White Glove Geography.